10 months into the war, Krathnos stood on the bridge of his flagship and made a decision that would either end the conflict or destroy his entire civilization. He was going to attack Earth itself. 600 ships, he said, studying the tactical display. Every vessel we can spare, concentrated in one overwhelming force. We jump directly to Earth's solar system. We either force their surrender or we destroy their homeworld. Either way, the war ends. On Nexus Prime, Vextar approved the plan immediately. Do it. End this embarrassment. The entire galaxy is watching us struggle against primitives. Show them what happens to species that defy the Council. Intelligence Officer Sung Min detected the Council's preparations 2 weeks before the attack. His network of informants across Council space reported the massive fleet assembly. He took his findings directly to General Yuna. They're coming to Earth, he said without preamble. Everything they have, 600 ships. They'll be here in 12 days. Yuna felt her stomach drop. Earth's orbital defenses were strong, but they'd never been designed to face an assault of this magnitude. The defense fleet had been scattered across human space fighting the war. It would take time to recall them, time they might not have. Can we evacuate? She asked quietly. Where would we go? Sungmin replied. Earth is home to 11 billion people. We can't evacuate that many. And even if we could, abandoning Earth would mean losing the war. The colonies would surrender without Earth to lead them. Then we defend, Yuna said. Get me Admiral Kyung-soo. Get me every ship commander. Get me Admiral Han Sol. We have 12 days to prepare for the fight of our lives. The preparations were frantic. Every human ship that could reach Earth in time was recalled. Orbital defense platforms were reinforced and armed with every weapon Dr. Hana could devise. The moon's far side became a hidden staging area for Tai Yang's stealth fleet. Admiral Han Sol coordinated Earth's defense, but even he knew the mathematics were brutal. They might have 200 ships total, counting everything from military vessels to armed merchants. Against 600 Council warships, it would take a miracle. We don't need a miracle, General Yuna told the gathered commanders on the day before the attack. We need to do what we've been doing all along. Fight smart. Fight dirty. Make them pay for every meter of space. Dr. Hana presented her final contribution to Earth's defense. I've been working on something since the war started. An electromagnetic pulse powerful enough to affect an entire fleet. It's never been tested at this scale. It might not work at all. But if it does, it will shut down every electronic system in range for approximately 90 seconds. Including ours? Kyung-soo asked. Including ours, Hana confirmed. That's why I designed all our key systems with manual backups. It will take us maybe 30 seconds to restart. Council ships are fully automated. It should take them at least 2 minutes, maybe more. 90 seconds to 2 minutes, Han Sol said slowly. That's not much time. It's enough to even the odds, Hana replied, if we use it at the right moment. The Council fleet arrived exactly when Sung Min predicted. 600 massive warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. They formed up in the largest military formation the galaxy had seen in centuries. Krathnos broadcast his message to Earth on all frequencies. Humans of Earth, this is your final opportunity for surrender. We have brought overwhelming force to your home system. Your fleets are scattered. Your defenses cannot stand against us. Surrender now. Accept tributary status and you will be permitted to live. Refuse, and we will destroy your world. The response came from Admiral Han Sol. This is Admiral Han Sol of Earth Defense Fleet, speaking for all of humanity. We appreciate your concern for our well-being, but we're going to have to decline. Earth is our home. We were born here, we've built our civilization here, and if necessary, we'll die here. But we won't surrender. If you want Earth, come and take it. The Council fleet advanced. This time there would be no clever tactics, no hiding in asteroid belts. This was a straightforward assault on a fixed position. Krathnos had learned from his previous defeats. He kept his fleet together, moving as a unified wall of force that could not be flanked or divided. Earth's defense fleet met them halfway to Mars. 200 human ships against 600 Council vessels. The battle began with a massive exchange of fire that lit up space like a solar flare. Human ships fought with desperate courage, throwing themselves at the Council fleet. They used every trick they'd learned, every tactic that had worked before. But this time, the Council was ready. Their formation held, their shields absorbed the attacks, their superior numbers began to tell. Within the first hour, Earth lost 40 ships. The Council lost 15. The mathematics were simple and terrible. At this rate, Earth's fleet would be destroyed long before they could significantly damage the Council forces. Pull back to Earth orbit, Han Solo ordered. All ships retreat to defensive position Alpha. Krathnos watched the human fleet retreat and felt satisfaction for the first time in months. They're finally fighting logically. They're falling back to their fixed defenses. This is the beginning of the end. The Council fleet pursued, closing in on Earth like a tightening fist. Earth's orbital defense platforms opened fire, adding their weapons to the defense fleets. The battle intensified. Space around Earth became a storm of energy beams, missiles, and debris from destroyed ships. Governor Mincio arrived from Harmony Station with 20 colony ships, every vessel her settlement could spare. They were poorly armed, barely more than transports with weapons bolted on. But they threw themselves into the battle anyway. "We came to help," she transmitted simply. "Where do you need us?" Other colony fleets were arriving too, called back by Sung Min's urgent messages. From New Seoul, from every human settlement, ships came to defend Earth. Some arrived damaged from previous battles. Some were piloted by civilians who'd never seen combat. All of them refused to let humanity's homeworld fall without a fight. But it wasn't enough. The Council fleet kept coming, absorbing losses that would have broken any other force. They had the numbers. They had the technology. They had the will to win. Admiral Kyung-soo watched his tactical display as the Council fleet entered optimal range. "Dr. Hana, are you ready?" "The pulse is charged," Hana replied from her control station deep inside Earth's defense network. "But remember, this is untested. It might not work." "It'll work," Kyung-soo said with confidence he didn't entirely feel. "It has to. All ships prepare for electronic shutdown. Switch to manual controls in 3, 2, 1, now." Dr. Hana activated her weapon. A pulse of electromagnetic energy exploded outward from Earth, invisible but devastating. Every electronic system within a massive sphere of space simply stopped working. Council ships went dark. Their shields vanished. Their weapons stopped firing. Their navigation, communications, and life support systems crashed simultaneously. 600 warships became 600 helpless metal containers drifting in space. Human ships went dark too, but they were ready. In every ship, crew members threw switches and turned valves, activating manual backup systems. Engines roared back to life. Weapons powered up, shields regenerated. 90 seconds after the pulse, human ships were operational again. The Council fleet was still dark. "All ships," Han Solo transmitted, "open fire. Target their engines and weapon systems. Disable but don't destroy unless necessary." The next 2 minutes were brutal and decisive. Human ships poured fire into the helpless Council vessels, systematically crippling them. By the time Council systems began coming back online, half their fleet was disabled. Krathnos stared at his screens as they finally rebooted. His fleet was destroyed. Not annihilated, but combat ineffective. Ships drifted with dead engines. Weapons were offline. Communications were chaos as every vessel tried to report simultaneously. "Impossible," he whispered. What did they do? Captain Tae-yang chose that moment to emerge from behind Earth's moon with his stealth fleet. Fresh ships with full weapons appeared suddenly in the middle of the confused Council formation. "This is Captain Tae-yang to all Council vessels. Your fleet is defeated. Your ships are disabled. Surrender now and you will be treated according to civilized rules of war. Continue fighting, and we will destroy every remaining ship." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, Council ships began transmitting surrender signals. They'd come to crush humanity and found themselves crushed instead. Krathnos sat in his command chair, defeated. He opened a channel to Admiral Han Solo. "I surrender my fleet. But understand this. The Council will never accept this defeat. They will send more ships. This war will not end here. It ends today, Han Sol replied. Look at your long-range sensors. Tell me what you see. Krathnos checked and felt his blood run cold. All across the galaxy, council stations and military installations were under attack, not by humans, but by their own tributary species. The battle at Earth had been broadcast across the entire galaxy. Everyone had watched the mighty council fleet defeated by humanity, and if humans could defeat the council, so could anyone else. The rebellion has already started, Han Sol said. Your tributary species are rising up. Your monopolies are collapsing. The alarm started at dawn. Daewon Park was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency sirens cut through the quiet of Frontier Station Hala. He dropped the cup and ran to the command center. His boots echoed through empty corridors as colonists scrambled to their posts. 15 years on this planet, and this was the first time they had used the invasion protocol. The command center filled quickly. Ijin Choi arrived first, already in her security uniform. She pulled up the sensor data on the main screen. Daewon felt his stomach drop. 12 ships hung in orbit above their colony. Big ones, military designs with weapons that could crack a planet's surface. Kryn Empire, Hyejin said quietly. Her hand moved to her sidearm out of habit. This is bad. Daewon had heard stories about the Kryn. Every colony administrator had. They were conquerors who moved through space taking what they wanted, but they had never come this far out before. Frontier Station Hala was too remote, too small to matter. The communication console beeped. An alien face filled the screen. The creature had 4 eyes and skin like dark metal. Its mouth was full of sharp teeth. This was Commander Vex, according to the identification markers that scrolled across the display. Human colony, the alien said. Its voice was flat and cold. I am Commander Vex of the Kryn Empire. You have 48 hours to evacuate this planet. After that time, we will deploy our war beasts. They will kill everything that remains. This is your only warning. The screen went dark. Silence filled the command center. Daewon looked around at his people. They were farmers, engineers, scientists, not soldiers. The colony had basic defenses, sure. Automated turrets around the perimeter. Some small arms in the security office. Nothing that could stop a military fleet. What are war beasts? Someone asked. Hyejin pulled up files on another screen. Images appeared. Massive creatures with armored scales and claws like swords. Battle reports from other colonies. The Kryn had used these things on 6 different worlds in the past decade. Every colony had fallen within hours. The creatures were unstoppable killing machines, bred specifically for planetary assault. We need to evacuate, one of the council members said. Her voice shook. We can't fight those things. Where would we go? Another council member asked. The nearest human station is 3 weeks away. They gave us 48 hours. Daewon felt the weight of 8,000 lives pressing down on him. He had led this colony through droughts, equipment failures, and dangerous wildlife. But this was different. This was war, and they had no way to win. There might be another option, a voice said from the back. Tae-sung Kim stepped forward. He was the colony's lead animal handler, a quiet man who usually stayed out of politics. His clothes were covered in dirt and something that looked like dried blood. He must have come straight from the animal pens. What option? Daewon asked. He would grab at any hope right now. We fight, Tae-sung said simply. Someone laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. Fight? Did you see those things? Our guns won't even scratch them. Tae-sung looked at the images on the screen. He studied the war beast carefully. They're big, strong, scary looking. But they're just animals. Trained animals, yes. But animals follow patterns. They have weaknesses. What are you saying? Hyejin asked. She was listening carefully now. I'm saying we have animals too, Tae-sung replied. We've been living on this planet for 15 years. Hala isn't a gentle world. The things that evolved here had to be tough to survive. We've been working with them, training them for a decade now. Daewon remembered the animal program. It had started small, just trying to domesticate local creatures for farm work. But Hala's ecosystem was brutal. The herbivores here had armor plates and toxic blood. The predators were worse, much worse. The program had become about survival as much as agriculture. You think our animals can fight their war beasts? Daewon asked carefully. I know they can, Tae-sung said. There was no doubt in his voice. The lurkers alone could take those things apart. and we have bigger options if we need them. Bora Lee pushed through the crowd. She was young, barely 20, and served as Tai Sung's apprentice. Her arms were covered in scars from training sessions. "He's right," she said. "I've seen what our animals can do. The Kryn have no idea what lives on this planet." Hyojin looked at Day One. "It's insane," she said. "But it might be our only chance. We can't evacuate. We can't run. If we're going to die anyway, we might as well try." Day One closed his eyes. He thought about the children playing in the colony square, the families who had trusted him to keep them safe, the life they had built here over 15 years. He thought about running, about surrendering, about watching the Kryn take their home. He opened his eyes. "What do you need?" Taesung smiled. It was a predator's smile. "Time to prepare. Keep them talking. Make them think we're scared and confused. We need to position the animals and set up the kill zones. 48 hours should be enough." The council erupted in discussion. Some people supported the plan. Others called it suicide. Day One let them argue for a few minutes, then raised his hand for silence. "We prepare for both," he said. "Taesung, take whoever you need and get the animals ready." Hyojin, fortify our positions and plan evacuation routes in case this goes wrong. Everyone else, act normal. The Kryn are watching us from orbit. Let them see scared colonists running around. Let them think they've already won. The command center emptied quickly. People rushed to their tasks. Day One stood alone for a moment, staring at the images of the Kryn war beasts on the screen. They looked terrifying, unstoppable. But then he thought about Big Mother, the massive creature sleeping in the deep caves below the colony. He thought about the pack of lurkers that hunted in perfect silence. He thought about the Tanglers with their paralytic venom and pack intelligence. The Kryn had no idea what they were walking into. 12 hours later, Ambassador Nira contacted the colony. Her face appeared on the screen with the expression of false sympathy. She was smaller than Commander Vex, with smoother features, but her eyes were just as cold. "I wanted to reach out personally," Nira said. Her voice was soft, almost kind. "I know this must be frightening for you. The war beasts are terrible weapons. I have seen what they do. The screaming, the blood, the way they tear through buildings like paper. It is not a good death." Day One kept his face calm. "We've dealt with dangerous creatures before." Nira's laugh was gentle and pitying. "Not like this. These are not wild animals. They are weapons designed and bred over centuries. They feel no fear. They know no mercy. Every colony that has faced them has fallen within hours. You are farmers and miners. You have no chance, and then why call?" Day One asked. "Because I am not without compassion," Nira said. "Surrender now. Accept Kryn rule. We will allow most of you to live. You will work for the Empire, yes, but you will live. Your children will live. Is your pride worth their lives?" Day One was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Ambassador, I appreciate the concern, but humanity has dealt with worse than your war beasts. We'll take our chances." Nira's false sympathy vanished. Her face became hard and cold. "Then you are fools. In 48 hours you will learn the price of that foolishness. I hope your pride keeps you warm while the beasts tear your colony apart." The screen went dark. Day One sat back in his chair. Through the window he could see Taesung and Bo-Ra working in the distance. They were preparing the animal pens, opening certain gates, closing others, setting up the pieces for the battle to come. The Kryn thought they knew what war was. They thought their engineered monsters were the most dangerous things in the galaxy. They were about to learn differently. The drop pods came down like meteors. Hyojin watched from the command center as 6 burning streaks cut through the morning sky. The pods hit the ground at the colony's outer perimeter, with impacts that shook the buildings. Dust and smoke rose from the crash sites. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then the screaming started. The pods split open with metallic shrieks. The war beasts emerged. Even through the security cameras, they looked massive. 12 feet tall, covered in overlapping scales that gleamed like black metal. Their claws were as long as Hyojin's arm. When they roared, the sound carried across the entire colony. "Contact in Zone 3, someone reported. The turrets are engaging." Hyojin pulled up the camera feed. The automated turrets were firing, pouring bullets and energy blasts into the nearest war beast. The creature didn't even slow down. It charged straight through the defensive line. One swipe of its claws tore a turret from its mounting and sent it flying. Another war beast opened its mouth and released a bolt of bioelectric energy that melted through a concrete barrier. All units, fall back to secondary positions, Yejin ordered into her radio. This is a fighting retreat. Stay together and keep moving. The security teams had practiced this. They fired at the war beasts as they pulled back, not trying to kill them, just slowing them down. Every few seconds, they would throw smoke grenades to cover their movement. The war beasts crashed through the smoke, roaring in fury. They were fast, faster than something that big had any right to be. One of the creatures caught a security officer who moved too slowly. The beast's claw came down. Yejin looked away, but she heard the scream cut short. The first casualty. It wouldn't be the last if this went wrong. Medical team to Zone 3, she called. But she knew there was nothing they could do. The war beast had been thorough. The creatures pushed deeper into the colony. They worked together with frightening intelligence. When the humans tried to ambush one from the side, another war beast circled around to cut off the escape route. When the defenders tried to concentrate fire on a single target, the others would rush in to protect it. These weren't just mindless monsters. They had been trained for this. Casualties? Daewon asked. He stood beside Hyejin, watching the screens with a grim expression. 1 dead, 4 injured. We're pulling them back now. Hyejin checked the tactical display. The war beasts are moving exactly as Taesung predicted. They're following the path of least resistance, pushing toward the colony center. Where is Taesung? At the inner perimeter with Bora and the animals. Hyejin zoomed in on a different camera. She could see the massive gates that led to the cleared zone around the colony's heart. He says to hold the outer zones as long as safely possible, then pull everyone back behind those gates. Daewon nodded. The Kryn are watching from orbit. They need to see us losing. They need to think this is going according to their plan. On screen, another war beast smashed through a building. It was toying with the structure, taking its time to destroy everything. These creatures weren't just weapons. They were tools of terror, meant to break the spirit of anyone watching. The Kryn wanted people to see this and surrender before the beasts ever reached them. Commander Vex's voice came through the general communication channel. Every speaker in the colony carried his words. Human colony. Your outer defenses have fallen. Your people are dying. This is your last chance to surrender. Open your gates and accept Kryn rule. Do this and we will call back the war beasts. Refuse, and they will tear apart every building, kill every person until nothing remains. Daewon picked up the microphone. His hand was steady. Commander Vex, we decline. The line went silent for a long moment. Then Vex laughed. It was a cruel sound, so be it. Your deaths are on your own hands. The war beasts seemed to sense the conversation was over. Their casual destruction stopped. They gathered together, all 6 of them forming a loose pack. Then they began their final push toward the colony center. All teams, full retreat, Hyejin ordered. Everyone behind the inner perimeter. Move now. The security forces fell back in organized units. The war beasts followed, but they didn't rush. They were confident now. They had seen human weapons fail. They had tasted blood. They walked through the abandoned outer zones like conquerors, roaring their dominance. By the time the sun set, the war beasts had reached the inner perimeter. They stood before the massive gates, studying them. The gates were reinforced steel, built to hold back the dangerous wildlife of Hala. But against creatures this powerful, they wouldn't last long. One of the war beasts stepped forward. It raised a massive claw and struck the gate. The metal groaned but held. The creature hit it again, and again. Dents began to form. The other war beasts joined in, all 6 of them hammering at the barrier. Inside the command center, Daewon watched the countdown timer. Taesung had been very specific about the timing. The war beasts needed to be tired, focused on the gates, thinking about the kill. They needed to be in exactly the right position. The timer reached 0. Daewon picked up the radio. Taesung, they're all yours. On the other side of the gates, Taesung stood with Bora in a reinforced observation post. They could see the war beasts through armored glass. The creatures were magnificent in their own terrible way. Perfect weapons designed over generations. They had destroyed colonies, killed thousands. They had never lost. That was about to change. Release the lurkers, Taesung said quietly. Bora pressed a series of buttons. Hidden doors slid open in the walls around the kill zone. For a moment, nothing happened. The war beasts kept hammering at the gates, unaware of the danger. Then the lurkers attacked. They came in silence. That was what made them so terrifying. No roar, no warning, just sudden violence. The lurkers were native predators of Hala, evolved to hunt in a world where making noise meant death. They were smaller than the war beasts, only 6 feet long, but they moved like liquid shadows. The first lurker hit a war beast in the back leg. Its teeth found the gap between armor scales. The war beast roared and spun, but the lurker was already gone, melted back into the shadows. Blood ran from the wound. The war beasts stopped attacking the gate. They formed a defensive circle, trying to find their attackers. But the lurkers were everywhere and nowhere. They struck from darkness, bit and vanished, struck again from a different angle. Each attack was precise, targeting joints and weak points that years of study had revealed. One war beast tried to blast a lurker with bioelectricity. The bolt missed, hitting a wall instead. The lurker was already behind it, climbing up its back, teeth sinking into the base of its skull. The war beast thrashed and fell. It didn't get back up. 2 lurkers down, Bo-Ra reported, watching her instruments. But we got one of theirs. The war beasts were panicking now. They had never faced prey that fought back like this. Their training had been against targets that ran or froze in fear. The lurkers did neither. They hunted with the cold efficiency of perfect predators. A second war beast fell, its throat torn open. Then a third, caught by 3 lurkers attacking in perfect coordination. The remaining 3 tried to break out, to escape the kill zone. But they were surrounded now. The lurkers herded them back together, circling like sharks. In orbit, Commander Vex watched his screens in disbelief. His war beasts were dying. The humans had weapons they weren't supposed to have. This colony was supposed to be simple. Farmers and miners, weak targets, easy prey. Ambassador Nira stood beside him, her face pale. What are those things? I don't know, Vex said. His voice was tight with fury. But it doesn't matter. We still have 3 war beasts. 3 is enough to destroy any colony. On the ground, the largest war beast remained. It was the pack leader, the Alpha. It killed 2 lurkers with a massive sweep of its claws, then charged toward the colony buildings. It was done with tactics. It would smash through everything in its path and kill everything it found. The war beast ran toward the main gate. The metal barrier wouldn't stop it. Nothing could stop it now. It opened its mouth to roar its victory. Tae-Sung pressed another button. A much larger gate opened. This one led to the deep caves below the colony. For a moment, there was only darkness beyond. Then Big Mother emerged. She was 50 feet long from nose to tail. Her scales were scarred from a lifetime of survival on Hala. She moved slowly, calmly, with the absolute confidence of a true apex predator. When she saw the war beast, she tilted her head, studying it. The war beast froze. Some deep instinct told it that it had made a terrible mistake. Big Mother charged. The fight was brutal and short. The war beast tried to use its speed and claws. Big Mother was older, slower, but she had been fighting since before the war beast was born. She had survived in a world where everything wanted to kill her. She had evolved over millions of years to be the perfect hunter. When it was over, Big Mother stood over the broken body of the war beast. She looked up at the orbiting ships as if she could see them watching. Then she turned and walked slowly back to her cave, following Bo-Ra, who waited with fresh meat as a reward. The other 2 war beasts lay dead in the kill zone, surrounded by lurkers that licked their wounds and cleaned their teeth. The sun rose over Frontier Station Hala. The colony stood intact. Smoke drifted from damaged buildings in the outer zones. Commander Vex stared at his tactical display. The 6 red markers that represented his war beasts had all gone dark. All of them. In less than 12 hours. That wasn't possible. His war beasts had destroyed entire military installations. They had broken through fortified bunkers. They had never lost. Until now. Get me visual confirmation, he ordered. A subordinate worked the controls. The main screen filled with an image from an observation drone. The colony's inner perimeter was visible in the morning light. And there, scattered across the ground, were the bodies of his war beasts. Broken. Dead. Defeated. Ambassador Nira made a small sound of shock. This can't be real. Those are Rendaks. They've destroyed 6 colonies. How did farmers kill them? Prepare orbital weapons, Vex said. His voice was cold and hard. I want that colony turned to glass. They will pay for this. Wait, Nira said. She grabbed his arm. We can't just bombard them. Not without understanding what happened. They killed our war beasts. That's all I need to understand. And how will we explain this to the Empire? Nira demanded. How will we report that our unstoppable weapons failed against human farmers? Do you want to be the commander who admits weakness? Vex pulled his arm away, but he didn't give the bombardment order. Nira was right. This situation was delicate. The Rendax program cost billions. The Empire's reputation was built on their success. If word spread that a human colony had defeated them so easily, it would destroy everything. What do you suggest? He asked through gritted teeth. We investigate, Nira said. We demand an inspection. We find out what weapons they used, what help they received. Then we decide how to proceed. The communication console beeped. The human administrator's face appeared on screen. He looked tired but calm. Too calm for someone whose colony should have been destroyed. Commander Vex, the human said, I believe you wanted to discuss terms. You murdered our war beast, Vex said. We defended our home, the human replied. Your war beast attacked us. We fought back. This is how war works, Commander. You had weapons you didn't declare. That violates galactic law. The human smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. Really? You want to talk about galactic law? After you threatened to massacre a civilian colony? After you deployed biological weapons against farmers? I recorded everything, Commander. Every threat, every attack. Would you like me to share those recordings with the galactic community? Vex felt cold rage building in his chest. But beneath the rage was something else. Something he hadn't felt in decades. Uncertainty. Ambassador Nira will visit your colony, he said finally. She will inspect your defenses and determine what happened. You will cooperate fully. Any resistance will be met with complete orbital bombardment. Of course, the human said. Ambassador Nira is welcome. We have nothing to hide. The screen went dark. 3 hours later, a shuttle descended from the Kryn flagship. Hyejin met it at the landing pad with a security escort. Ambassador Nira emerged, flanked by 4 armed guards. She looked around the colony with sharp, evaluating eyes. Where are the military installations? She asked immediately. We don't have any, Hyejin replied. This is an agricultural colony. We mine resources and grow food. That's all. Don't lie to me. You killed 6 Rendax. That requires serious military hardware. I'm not lying. Come, I'll show you everything. Hyejin led the group through the colony. Nira's guards scanned everything with sophisticated sensors, looking for hidden bunkers or concealed weapons. They found farming equipment, processing facilities, residential buildings, storage warehouses, no weapons, no military installations, nothing that could explain how this colony had defeated the war beasts. Where are your heavy weapons? Nira demanded. Your artillery? Your combat vehicles? In the security office, Hyejin said. She led them to a small building. Inside were racks of basic rifles and sidearms. Standard colony defense equipment. Nothing special. Nira picked up one of the rifles. It was old, well-maintained but clearly used for years. You killed Rendax with these? No, Hyejin said. These didn't do anything to your war beasts. They were too well armored. Then what did you use? Hyejin smiled. Come with me. She led them to the inner perimeter. The bodies of the war beasts still lay where they had fallen. Nira's guards immediately raised their weapons, scanning for threats. But the area was quiet, peaceful even. Nira approached the nearest dead Rendax. She studied the wounds carefully. Deep puncture marks, torn armor, massive trauma to vital areas. These injuries, they're from teeth and claws, animal attacks. Yes, Hyejin confirmed, but what kind of animal could do this? The Rendax are armored. They're massive. They're trained to fight. Animals from this planet, Hyejin said. She pointed to a distant fence line. We call them lurkers. They're native predators. We've been working with them for 10 years. Nira stared at her. Working with them? You mean you trained wild animals to fight? Not exactly. We didn't train them to fight. They already knew how to do that. We trained them to work with us, to trust us, to understand commands, one of Nira's guards pointed. Ambassador movement. From the shadows near a building, a lurker emerged. It was lean and powerful, covered in dark scales that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes were intelligent and watchful. It padded forward on silent feet, moving like liquid. The guards raised their weapons. Don't shoot, Hyejin said quickly. She's just curious. The lurker approached Nira slowly. It tilted its head, studying the alien with obvious intelligence. Then it lost interest and walked away. disappearing into the shadows again. "That thing killed a Rendax?" one of the guards asked. His voice was shaky. "3 of them killed 3 Rendax," Hyojin corrected. "They work in packs. They coordinate. They learn. These animals evolved on a death world. Your war beasts were bred in controlled environments. There's a difference." Nira was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I want to see where you keep these creatures." Ijin led them to the animal pens. The facilities were large and well-maintained. Each enclosure was designed for a specific species, with enrichment activities and comfortable shelters. Taesung and Bora were working in the main training yard. "This is Taesung Kim, our lead handler," Hijin said, "and his apprentice Bora Lee." Taesung was feeding something in a large pen. The creature inside was massive, with armored hide and sharp horns. It ate from his hand with surprising gentleness. "These are your weapons?" Nira asked. "These are our partners," Taesung corrected. He spoke without looking up. "We don't use them as weapons. They work with us. They help us farm, move heavy equipment, protect our crops from other predators. But you use them to kill Rendax. We use them to defend our home. There's a difference." Bo-Ra was working with a young lurker in a nearby pen. The animal performed complex maneuvers in response to her hand signals. Sit, stay, circle, hunt pattern alpha. Each command was obeyed instantly. When the exercise was complete, Bo-Ra rewarded the lurker with fresh meat and scratched behind its ears. The deadly predator made a sound almost like purring. "I don't understand," Nira said slowly. "How is this possible? These are apex predators. They should be impossible to domesticate." "Everything is impossible until someone does it," Taesung said. He finally looked at her. "Humans have been domesticating animals for thousands of years. Dogs, horses, cattle, birds. We learned how to work with other species, how to build trust and partnership. When we came to Hala, we just applied the same principles. But these animals are killers." "So were wolves," Bora said. "Humans turned them into dogs. We've been living with dangerous animals our entire history. We know how to respect them, understand them, work with them." Nira walked along the pen studying the various creatures. Some were herbivores with defensive adaptations. Others were clearly predators watching her with intelligent eyes. None of them looked particularly aggressive. They looked calm, well-fed, almost content. "I want to see the one that killed the Alpha Rendax," Nira said. Taesung and Bora exchanged glances. "That's Big Mother," Taesung said. "She's in the deep caves. She doesn't like crowds. Take me to her." They descended into the cave system below the colony. The tunnels were natural formations, carved over millions of years by water and geological activity. The group walked for nearly 20 minutes before reaching a massive cavern. Big Mother lay in the center, resting after her battle. She was even more impressive up close. 50 feet of muscle, scale, and ancient predatory intelligence. She opened one eye as they approached, studying the visitors. "Stay back," Bora warned. "She's protective of her space." But Nira walked forward slowly. She was terrified, but she needed to understand. "This creature killed our strongest Rendax in minutes." "Yes," Taesung said. "Because she's been fighting her entire life. Not in controlled training environments. Real fights. Life and death. Every day. That's what evolution does. It creates survivors." Big Mother watched Nira with that one open eye. Then, apparently deciding the alien wasn't interesting, she closed her eye and went back to sleep. Bora walked up to Big Mother carrying a large container of food. She placed it near the creature's head. Big Mother's eye opened again. She ate the food calmly, then made a low rumbling sound. Bora reached out and touched the massive beast's snout. Big Mother didn't react. She simply accepted the gesture and went back to resting. 1 year after the war beasts fell, Frontier Station Hala looked different. The damaged buildings had been repaired. New structures stood where old ones had burned. The colony had grown, both in size and reputation. But the biggest change was harder to see. Day One stood in the main square watching children play. Human children ran alongside young lurkers in a carefully supervised game. The predators were gentle with the small humans, their natural hunting instincts channeled into playful behavior. Parents watched from nearby benches, relaxed and trusting. A year ago, this scene would have been impossible. Now it was normal. "Administrator Park," a voice called. Day One turned. A Kryn delegation was approaching, led by Ambassador Nira. She looked different now. Her formal diplomatic clothing was gone, replaced by practical work gear. Her skin showed scars from animal training. She moved with the confident stride of someone who knew her purpose. "Ambassador," Daewon greeted her. "How was your trip to the homeworld?" "Complicated," Nira admitted. "But successful. The Council has agreed to expand the program. They want to send more observers to learn your methods, and they've formally apologized to the 6 colonies we destroyed with Rendax attacks." "Apologies are nice," Daewon said, "but actions matter more." "I know. That's why we're also offering reparations to those colonies, and we're decommissioning the entire War Beast program. The remaining Rendax have been moved to sanctuaries where they can live out their lives in peace." Heejin joined them, carrying a datapad. "The numbers check out. The Kryn have transferred the agreed amounts to all affected colonies. They're actually following through." Daewon nodded slowly. "Good, that's a start." "More than a start," Nira said. There was emotion in her voice. "This is a revolution. You have no idea what you've done. The Empire has operated the same way for centuries. Conquest, domination, force. Now we're questioning everything. Your colony showed us that strength doesn't come from fear. It comes from trust. We showed you that nature is stronger than engineering," Taesung said. He had approached quietly, as he often did. Bo-Ra walked beside him, a young lurker following at her heels like a loyal dog. "Your people tried to build the perfect weapon. We just made friends with what already existed." "It's more than that," Nira replied. "It's a philosophy, a way of seeing the universe. We looked at dangerous creatures and saw threats to control. You looked at the same creatures and saw potential partners. That difference changes everything." A group of Kryn observers stood near the animal pens, watching handlers work with various species. They took notes constantly, trying to understand the techniques. Most of them struggled with the basic concepts. They wanted rules, procedures, guaranteed methods. But domestication didn't work that way. Each animal was different. Each relationship was unique. One young Kryn observer was having better luck. She worked with a small herbivore, moving slowly and patiently. The animal was skittish but gradually warming to her presence. Taesung had been impressed with her progress. "That one might actually learn," Taesung said, nodding toward the young Kryn. "She understands patience." "Her name is Kira," Nira said. "She's from a farming family, not a military background. She already understood working with living things. The military observers keep trying to command the animals. They don't get it." "Can't teach someone who thinks they already know," Bo-Ra said. She was watching the Kryn observers with a critical eye. Half of them are just going through the motions. They want the results without the work. "Those ones will fail," Nira agreed. "But some of us are really trying. Kira is one. I'm another. There are others back home who are serious about this." Daewon led them to the colony's new meeting hall. Inside, representatives from 7 different species waited. News of what happened at Frontier Station Hala had spread across the galaxy. Other civilizations wanted to understand human methods. Some sought alliances. Others wanted to learn animal domestication for their own worlds. The meeting lasted 3 hours. Daewon explained that humanity's approach wasn't a military secret. It was a cultural philosophy, built over thousands of years of living alongside animals. He offered to share knowledge freely with any species willing to learn. "But understand," he said, addressing the assembled delegates, "this isn't a quick fix. You can't domesticate an apex predator in a few weeks. You can't build trust through force or shortcuts. If you want to do this right, you need to commit decades to the process, generations even. Are you prepared for that?" Most delegates looked uncomfortable. They wanted fast solutions, immediate military applications. The idea of waiting decades didn't appeal to them, but a few nodded seriously. They understood. These were the ones who might actually succeed. After the meeting, Daewon found Heejin on the command center balcony. She was looking at sensor data, tracking ships in orbit. There were more now than when the Kryn first arrived. Trade vessels, science ships, tourist cruisers. Everyone wanted to visit the famous colony. "We've become a destination," Hyojin said. "Remember when we were just a remote farming settlement? Now we're on every galactic map." "Does that bother you?" Daewon asked. "Sometimes. I like the quiet. But I also like that we're changing minds. We showed the galaxy that humans aren't just good soldiers. We're partners, bridge builders. That's worth some crowds." Down in the colony, Ambassador Nira was working in the pens. Tae-sung had assigned her to care for Big Mother today. It was a test. Big Mother was the most dangerous animal in the colony. She had killed the Alpha Rendax with ease. If Nira couldn't earn her respect, she would never truly understand human methods. Nira descended into the caves with food containers. Big Mother watched her approach with one lazy eye. The massive predator could kill her instantly if she sensed any threat or dishonesty. Nira set down the food. She didn't try to pet Big Mother or get too close. She simply did her job with quiet respect. After a moment, Big Mother ate. Then, surprisingly, she made a low rumbling sound. Not aggressive, almost friendly. Nira felt tears on her face. This creature, this ancient apex predator, had just acknowledged her. Not as a master, not as a servant, as someone worthy of basic respect. She understood now. She finally understood. When she returned to the surface, Bo-Ra was waiting. "Big Mother accepted you," the young woman said. "It wasn't a question. She did." "That took me 6 years," Bo-Ra said. "You did it in 1. You're learning fast." "I had good teachers," Nira replied. "And I was motivated. My entire worldview was destroyed by this colony. I had to rebuild it from nothing. That makes you either quit or commit completely. I chose commitment." Bo-Ra studied the Kryn woman for a moment. Then she smiled. "Tae-sung wants to see you. He has something to show you." They found Tae-sung in the main training yard. He stood beside a small enclosure. Inside was a creature Nira had never seen before. It was about the size of a large dog, covered in soft fur with intelligent eyes. "This is a seeker," Tae-sung explained. "They're rare, very intelligent, very particular about who they trust. We found her injured in the forest 6 months ago. We've been treating her, but she won't bond with any of the handlers. She doesn't trust easily." "Why are you showing me?" Nira asked. "Because I think you might be able to reach her," Tae-sung said. "You understand what it's like to rebuild trust after betrayal. So does she. Maybe you can help each other." Nira approached the enclosure slowly. The seeker watched her with wary eyes. This creature had been hurt. It had learned that the world was dangerous. It would take time and patience to change that belief. Nira sat down outside the enclosure. She didn't try to enter or touch the seeker. She just sat, present, calm, patient. Hours passed. The seeker watched her carefully. Eventually, it moved closer to the barrier. Still cautious, still ready to flee, but curious. Nira remained still. She barely breathed. She showed through her body language that she meant no harm, that she was safe, that she could be trusted. As the sun set, the seeker took 1 step closer, then another. Finally, it pressed its nose against the barrier between them, a tiny gesture of tentative trust. Nira's heart swelled. This was what it was all about. Not control, not domination. Just the slow, patient building of trust between 2 beings who chose to give each other a chance. Over the following weeks, Nira worked with the seeker every day. The progress was slow but steady. The creature began eating from her hand, then allowing her into the enclosure, then, finally, letting her touch its fur. One morning, Nira arrived at the enclosure to find the seeker waiting at the gate. When she entered, the creature followed her. When she sat, it curled up beside her. When she left, it made a small sound of protest. The bond was formed. Tae-sung watched from a distance. "She's ready," he said to Bo-Ra. "Ready for what?" "To go home and teach others. She's learned everything we can show her. Now she needs to take it back to her people and spread what she knows. That evening, Daewon called a meeting. Nira attended, along with the Kryn observers and the various delegates still visiting the colony. The announcement was simple but significant. Ambassador Nira has completed her training, Daewon said. She understands our methods and our philosophy. We're certifying her as a qualified handler and animal behavior specialist. She's the first non-human to earn this designation from Frontier Station Hala.